Hello, hello. This is Kim Addis, and I am the president of Frame of Mind Coaching. And you have just joined us for the Frame of Mind Coaching podcast. Today, I have with me a very special co host. I'm so excited to have him with me because he's another industry expert. His name is Garry Schleifer, and he is the publisher of Choice Magazine. And if you guys don't know already, Choice Magazine is the coaching magazine for the whole entire coaching industry. Garry, welcome.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me on the call today. I'm excited. And yes, Choice is hard to gloat, but I have to say, I don't think there's another magazine that is an unbiased, globally distributed magazine specifically for coaches. And I'm glad to be here.
So I've known Garry for many, many years, and I would say that we kind of started in the coaching industry approximately at the same time. I've been in for about 15 years, Garry.
Started coaching in January of 2001 and started Choice Magazine in April of 2003. So yeah.
So you're even older than me. And it feels as though we grew up in the industry
I've always been
together,
older than you, Kim.
but it feels like we grew up in the industry together. So what's interesting about Garry is, he's very exposed to all different kinds of coaching styles, all different kinds of coaches, and also really, really understands the need for coaching. So I want to kind of jump in right away, and I want to start discussing like what it is that coaching delivers to leaders, executives, and the highly driven population. Why do we believe they need coaching, and what is the ROI they experience as a result of coaching? Love to hear your thoughts.
Awesome. Well, that's a huge, huge gambit of different answers. And I want to add in there a third entity, and that's the people that hire people for executives. So let's just deal with them right away. So sometimes they deal with people, or they hire coaches because they have performance issues with their employees. And that's not what we do in coaching. That's HR, that's something different. So just a little something to remember, that the people who hire coaches for executives might be coming from that standpoint. So let's get into the clarity of the coaching engagement, where when coaches are hired, they will be hired for performance, but more so they're being hired, and as you alluded to, a certain ROI. And to answer a question about ROI is like asking like how many different styles of houses there are to choose from to build. It's all part of the agreement. And in my experience, I go to a lot of coaching conferences. I participate in a lot of programs, both as a coach and as a publisher of Choice. It really is about establishing something at the beginning of the coaching engagement. It's like, so, client, what do you want to get out of this entire process? Company, what are you hiring coaches for? So let's get grounded in what the ROI is. And I've seen just general ROI conversations, and I've seen very detailed ROI conversations, but the bottom line is they're always in engagement with the person who is being coached and the person who hires them to be coached.
So let me just dig in a little bit, because I have a very specific coaching mentality, a very specific coaching approach, philosophy. You know that already, right?
Yeah.
And so again, it's a little bit of a debate, but that's fine. It's fun. Okay. Yeah. So do you think that what we should do as coaches is say, what do you want to get out of coaching? Let's go for that.
Oh, no, I wouldn't leave it there. You should have an army of opportunities for the client. I mean, you know the tools that you start off with an assessment. You look at where that's leading. That's one way to do it. You sit down with your client. You have to be ready. A coach has to be ready. You can't just leave it to the client, because most of the time they're totally new to coaching. Like, this is sad to say, after 25 years or so, coaching is still sometimes thought of as a sport coach, right? And it's right. So you're going to help me get to my goals? Well, yeah. And right, we're going to help you communicate better. We're going to help you in the areas that we may have found in an assessment that are lacking. We may be working in a team. We may be working in a group towards a group goal. So there's so many layers of ROI. Is that more what you're
Well, but I think that there are lots of different coaches, and again, what I'm excited about is that you have access to all those different approaches and styles, right? So, of course, you're a coach and you have a specific style of your own, but you're exposed to so many different approaches. So, on the one hand, there's the high accountability coach who's looking at your actions and making sure you're doing all the things you need to do in order to reach your goals. And on the very other end of the spectrum is, call it me, who doesn't hold anybody accountable because my belief is, hey, there's something else getting in the way of you reaching your goals. Let's look at that thing and let's move it out of the way. So I don't need to hold you accountable to make that happen. I need to go on a journey with you of exploration and discovery, and it's got to be fun and it's got to be enjoyable, and you don't answer to me. Right? So two completely different ends of the spectrum. And so, there's a lot of different coaching styles. And so one of the big questions that people ask is, so like, tangibly, what can I expect? What is the ROI? What, is my revenue going to increase? Am I going to lose weight? What can I actually expect from coaching? And again, given your exposure, I thought that you'd be a good person to answer that question.
Yeah, thank you. It is a great question. And you alluded to the answer already in yours. So when you were talking about being accountable, the person sets the goals. The bottom line is you're not setting the goals for them, because you're right. You don't want to be left as a person accountable. Coaching is about leaving the person responsible because they're creative, resourceful, and whole. You and I as coaches are merely partners in the journey. And we're not consultants per se. And I know some people add that in at request of the client. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen. But when you're doing just coaching, the accountability is totally up to the client. Now, they may choose to be you as somebody to be accountable to, and they need to be accountable to someone as well as themselves. If the coach chooses not to be that person, that's fine, because they don't have to. That's not an established role for the coach. It's an opportunity, it's a possibility, but it's definitely not absolutely needed. Will they lose weight? Will they make more revenue? That depends. Again, it's up to the client. Coaching is about helping the client see what's available to them and helping them take the steps to do it, by when, and who are they accountable to. And again, like I say, it's like they could be accountable to their boss. They could be accountable to their spouse. They could be accountable to their business partner. It doesn't have to be the coach. And so that's
Yeah.
how I see that part.
It's interesting. And I will say that my experience is a lot of people come into coaching looking for, let's say, increased revenue. And I will say to them, that will be a byproduct of your coaching experience. So I don't need to specifically work on revenue strategies to help you increase your revenue. So my perspective is that a leader in an organization and the way they think has the greatest impact on ROI, on revenue, than any other factor. And so when your thinking is aligned with your goals, then the revenue starts to flow in. And so what I'm kind of promising, like, it's funny, right? It's hard for a coach to promise anything because it's so dependent on the client. But my promise is to help them achieve a greater sense of ease, peace, exhilaration, and joy. And when they get to that place, then all of a sudden solutions start coming in, opportunities start to become apparent, their communication improves, and at the end of the day, so does their revenue. So that, it's just an interesting, there's such a wide variety of coaches out there. And, for anybody who's listening, who's thinking, like, what kind of coach should I select? You got to really think through, what's going to work for me? What philosophy, what approach, what process is going to work for me?
Yeah. Well, and true. And on top of all of that is a reminder that the client is the one that has to do the work. There needs to be a clear distinction, and I alluded to this earlier, between a consultant and a coach. The coach is not like a consultant who will come in and be a subject matter expert and tell you what to do. Like you said, no, I'm not going to do revenue strategies with you. That's you get somebody else to do that. That's in your job. Now, that being said, and I get your philosophy, mine is a little different. When I engage with a client, I will ask them what they want to get out of coaching. And to be honest, it's a little bit of the marketing thing too. If you market to people who are looking to achieve their goals, then you work with them, then you get back to where you are. We all get back there. There's a human being behind this goal and strategy, and I'll like to say facade. And that's when we deal with their communication, their life, their ease of life, and all those things that you said. Inevitably, every coach will get to that, because those are the things that are keeping them from moving
Right.
forward in their business. And guess what? In their lives.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, the way that you identified that it's a bit of a marketing strategy. Let's help you
Yeah.
reach your goals.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you keep the marketing strategy, because I remember from way back, and like you and I, we've been in this game for a long time. Remember when everybody was a life coach, and now the pop culture makes fun of life coaches a lot. But we've evolved, and we've realized that people, mostly executives, and I would hazard guess that there are more people calling them executive or business coaches than are calling themselves life coaches. But guess what? Once you've marketed yourself as that, and you come back to the actual coaching with the client, inevitably you're dealing with a person, with a human, and
That's
all
right.
of their stuff.
Yes. And that is why Frame of Mind Coaching, we coach executives, and we have a huge impact on the business, but 9.8 times out of 10, our clients come back and say, this changed my life.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a philosophy about work-life balance. I don't know if you've ever heard it. Have you ever
Maybe I
heard
have, but let's hear it
Maybe.
again.
I'll tell you. So, like, when you go to a park and you see like two kids on a seesaw and they're like in perfect balance,
Right.
what's happening?
Nothing.
Nothing. Exactly. And people
Yeah.
are seeking perfect balance. And for me,
Yeah.
like, that's not what I look for my clients. That's not what I'm striving for. What I'm striving for is, hey, if you're going to have a great life, if you're going to have a fun, exhilarating, fulfilling life, you got to experience the ups and downs, but you have to have the resilience to handle the bumps along the way. And so my goal is to help my clients ride the waves, ride the bumps, handle them so that they're having fun on all ends of the seesaw, right? So that's more what I'm after, rather than balance.
Yeah. Well, and to that end, I remember one of the first issues of Choice Magazine had a work-life balance, the myth of work-life balance. So I'm not saying I buy into it either. I like to call it harmony, but I like your analogy better. Like, it's
The
not,
seesaw analogy.
well, the seesaw and riding the waves,
Yeah.
maybe a surfboard is a better way, or a kayak or waterboarding. No, what do you call it? Yeah. Paddleboarding. No.
Paddleboarding. One of
We
those.
don't, yeah. And that sort of thing, where you're dealing with the ups and downs,
Yeah.
and that gets to the core of what coaching works with a client on, is what are your core needs. It's almost, core needs, core strategies, coping mechanisms. And let's be clear, it's also not therapy, but we're noticing and recognizing patterns, because when we're with a client long enough, we start to see a pattern, and we can say, that I noticed that happening again, or how is this different than your previous experience with that last company?
Yeah, perfect. And so, I mean, you brought up the word pattern, and that's really, really critical. This is one of the reasons why we ask our clients to journal, because through the journals, we can pick up patterns much more quickly, right? Because people are writing their stories about their present, their past, their future, all the stories, and we're able to connect the dots and pick up patterns faster. And when we do, we're able to help people move through those patterns, the destructive patterns, with greater speed, right? That's something we're interested in. So let me switch gears for a second. So some people, executives, aren't so comfortable with coaching. They kind of resist it. Why do you think that is? Like, don't you think everybody needs a coach? Don't you think like really, really amazing leaders surround themselves with one form of a coach or another? So why do some executives say that's not for me?
Come on, that's just ego. They know better. And it's interesting. There are fewer and fewer of those, right? Because it's starting to be seen now as a perk, like an
Yes.
EAP thing. So now there are fewer of them, because their colleagues are having it, and they're talking about it, about the experience and how great, and they can see the difference and things like that. But I totally think that it's just an ego and a lack of understanding of exactly what coaching is and how coaching can help.
So do
And
you think that there's a fear? What are they afraid of?
oh, they're being afraid of being exposed as being a human being that has challenges and patterns and just that's all. How many times have you talked to somebody and they're afraid of them being seen as their real selves? Like, what
Every
would
time.
happen if people? Yeah,
Every time.
exactly. We're all hiding something, and they just seem to feel they have more to hide, and that's a fear. So yeah, bang on.
So, do you think, like, one of my greatest passions is helping leaders actually learn some basic coaching skills? Because my philosophy is that great leaders are also great coaches. Would you agree with that?
Oh, totally. And I have a client right now who I'm coaching him on coaching his boss, on working with his boss, coaching up, I like to call it, and with his colleagues, coaching at work, or coach approach at work. Instead of like waiting, telling, being frustrated, ask open-ended questions. Like, this is the ripple effect that we cause, Kim, in the world, is when we engage someone and they have a great experience with coaching, and then they carry coaching throughout their work and home lives.
Absolutely. My favorite thing in the whole world is when I coach a leader and that causes their relationship with their kids to completely transform.
Yeah.
That's the greatest high in the world.
Yeah, that touches the heart. That really does.
Yeah, yeah. So do you find, because I do, when I coach someone, um, it helps me stay kind of clear-minded. It helps me stay focused. It helps me kind of like keep my eye on the light, if that makes any sense. When I coach someone else, it actually serves me. Do you find
Oh,
that that's the
there's
same
a
thing for
huge
you?
benefit. One time out of 10 coaching sessions, at least there'll be an aha where you'll be like, oh my goodness, that's me. And you have to really quickly focus back on the client, because first of all, you don't want to bring in your own stuff into the conversation, which is difficult. But afterwards, you're like, wow, what a great idea. Like, they'll say something, or they'll comment about something, or they'll be in the same situation as you just experienced, or it's just coming into your own purview. It's the strangest thing. We inevitably coach clients who will help us in some way or another. There's always that added benefit for a coach.
So only 1 in 10. For me, it's almost every time that when I'm coaching someone and the words coming out of my mouth, sometimes I'm like, oh man, that's the message I meant to receive today.
All right. So maybe
Right?
it's a little bit more, but when I'm working with one client and he's dealing with the same issue over 10 weeks, then that's the 1 out of 10. So every
Okay.
client, yeah, with every client, there's always some gem. And
Yeah.
I think the main reason that happens is, and here's something about coach for people that are getting coached, a coach's job is to be present to the client, and not just what the client's saying, but also the nuances around it. When we did coach training, we had, like, I think it was 3 levels of listening. And so the only way we can hear is to be present. So to go back to saying, like, well, getting something for ourselves, you really have to put that in your pocket and get back to work, sort of thing, right?
Well, I don't see it quite that way. So I agree with the presence concept.
Yeah.
Not only that, I believe that your job as a coach is almost to be a vehicle, right? Like you just kind
Hmm.
of like give yourself up for the client. You just
Yeah.
completely give yourself over,
Yeah.
all of it, all of your reactions, your emotions. You just give it over in service of the client,
Yeah.
right? And so sometimes that means there's a moment when you're like, oh, I just grew as a result of that conversation, and you bring your growth to the conversation again.
Mhm.
So it's like it's a cycle that feeds itself,
Yeah.
right? So when you're growing as a result of the client conversation and you bring your growth to the conversation, you're serving the client again. So
Yeah.
that's my perspective. So I'm going to ask you one last question just to round out
Just
this.
one,
Just
just
one
one. You
more.
have tons in your pocket, but
I
go
really
for it.
do. I do. Because this is one of my favorite conversations, the
Yeah.
conversation about coaching. And to be honest, there's not a lot of people I could talk to about coaching and like on that high level, right? So this is fun for me. Uh, Here's the question. What do you think differentiates amazing coaches from mediocre coaches?
Oh, okay. Brilliant. Mediocre coaches come from inexperience, fear, just lack of confidence. And amazing coaches, like what you said about how you coach, I always say amazing coaches coach risking getting fired. Like you're always, and I don't want to say in their face per se, but you know what I mean? That kind of extreme where you're coaching to risk being fired. You're going to ask those questions. Like the other day I was sitting with a client and he literally told me to F off because I hit it right on the nail. And he's like, damn, right? That's what you want to get out of that's what makes an amazing, effective coach.
So I remember one of my first coaching experiences, actually the first one-on-one coaching client I ever had, because before that I was coaching groups. So my first one-on-one coaching client, after every call, at the end of every call, he'd say, "I hate you."
Right.
And I'd be like, yes.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Is that the strangest level of success, right?
Yeah.
It's
like I knew like I was just like on fire, right? Hitting all the right points and getting to the right place.
Yeah.
But do you think that, and so I totally get it. And I love that statement, like they risk getting fired, and they risk getting fired because they're unafraid to go or venture into scary, emotional, intimate, personal territory.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, you know what, and you could flip that around. Mediocre coaches are afraid of getting fired. Excellent coaches have no fear of being fired. That could really be the defining line.
That's very interesting.
Coach to the edge. I mean, there's a reason we sit on the edge of our seat when we coach clients. We're like leaning into them, not just to listen to them, but to bring out the absolutely amazingly best of every client.
Yeah. When I'm on a coaching call, my head is down and I'm totally and utterly focused. Yeah. It's very interesting. Just to go back to that, would you say, because you said great coaches have experience, but do you think any new coaches could be actually good without the experience?
Yeah.
Okay. So my perspective is that some amazing coaches are also highly intuitive. Like they just feel it. They just can hear. They can hear the pain. They can hear the hope. They can hear the suffering. They can hear the patterns. They really do a better job, I would say, of paying attention to what's truly going on for the client. Yeah. But I would say some coaches are simply far more intuitive, far more natural, like it's their instinct to coach.
Yeah. And that's a nature versus nurture, right? Like for me, my intuition came out of coach training, personal development, landmark education, all that sort of stuff. But about being observant of myself and doing my own work.
Yeah.
And I don't care how old the person is. If they've got those either by nature or by nurture, they've got those capabilities, those skills, go for it. Yeah. I don't think ages, the most amazing things sometimes come out of kids. They don't know they're coaching or they're being profound, but they have no fear.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I did have one more question. Last question, I promise, then it's over. I can let you go. For people who are listening, what is your best advice for selecting an executive or just a coach? What's your best advice?
Interview at least 3 people, have a session with them of coaching, and determine what feels great in your heart and your head.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how I hire my coaches.
I'm going to add a few things to that.
Go for it. I knew you would.
I'm going to add a few things to that. So, and whoever's listening, I would actually get a pen and a paper and write these things down. So to me, this is the criteria. Number one, of a coach are you looking for? Are you looking for a business coach? Are you looking for a life coach? Are you looking for a coach that is a subject matter expert? Or are you looking for a human coach, right? Like we're going to coach you as a person. So what kind of coach are you looking for? Number 2, do you click? Is there that connection?
Yeah.
Number 3, do you feel like they get you? Are they listening well? Are they asking the right questions, right? All of that stuff. Number 4, and I think this is really important, what is their track record? Can you speak to their references? Are they well liked? Do their clients love them, right? What have they achieved with their other clients? Number 5. What number am I on? Number 5.
The next one.
The next one. The next one is, how do they collect data about you? How do they get to know you? Right? Is it just through phone calls, or are there other methods that they use to really know you and understand you and see who you are? How often are you in contact? What's the frequency of contact? And is there a process they use? So those are some of the things that I would encourage you to take a look at. And at the end of the day, Garry is 100% right. Does it feel right in your heart?
Yeah. One thing I would challenge in your list, though, and it would not the whole list, or just one of these pieces, don't look for a subject matter expert.
Well, again, it depends on what kind of coaching you're looking for. If you're looking for coaching in,
No, this is where I take a stand. Get somebody who knows absolutely nothing about what you do. Because
what
then
if you want a marketing coach to teach you how to do SEO?
That's consulting.
Okay.
That's
consulting. They call themselves coaches, though, Garry.
I know, but that's, again, it's a distinction. Are they there's another thing to add to your list then. Are they there to provide straight coaching or consulting, or a blend of the two? Now, I've been hired to do a blend of the two because people want my 30 plus years of entrepreneurial experience, where I've started and built and sold multi-million-dollar companies, right? So that's what they want from me. And I get it. And I still get clear on what is it you want when we're actually having the engagement. What are you looking for in a coach? And if they say they want like marketing advice or expertise, then I'm like, no, you're not going to get that from me. But,
fair enough.
But, so they do hire me as a subject matter expert that I have entrepreneur experience, but I won't let them hire me to be specific about publishing in a magazine.
So you're right. In that case, you're hiring a consultant.
Yeah. And that's fine.
I give you the final word. So Garry,
oh, no.
Garry, 2 things. How do people find you? How do people sign up or register or whatever for your magazine? How do they do that?
All right. So choice-online.com. There's, you can get a free digital issue by giving us your email, and you can subscribe at the /catalog page. And I'll even give you a coupon code to get $5 off your purchase. Friends of Choice, all cap, all together. So choice-online.com/catalog, coupon code Friends of Choice, because everyone's a friend of choice. And away you go. And we'd love to talk to you. And we would love young, medium, old, whatever, write for Choice. It's so easy. And you get published in an international magazine. So
I'm a writer.
Exactly. And you're going to write for Choice again.
Again, right.
Yeah.
I used to write for Choice all the time.
Yeah.
So you'll get me back. Okay.
Yay.
And then final words. What words of wisdom do you have to share with our listeners?
Having a coach has been one of the most blessed things I've done for myself in my life. So my final words of wisdom is try it out. See what it's like. Learn about it. It's awesome. It's absolutely, my life is, I wouldn't have recognized this life 20 years ago when I started coaching and started having coaches. I can't believe it. It's just amazing.
So your recommendation is?
Hire a coach.
Hire a coach. I'm all for that. Garry, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Kim.
Thank you for spending this time with me, and I can't wait to see you in person.
Hey, soon. Coffee time. Real coffee.